Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. Now a few weeks ago on my channel I put a video live asking what is the best premium golf ball for average swing speed players. Now in that video I took the four most played brands of golf ball on the PGA Tour and put their premium softballs side by side, head to head in a test to work out which is the best one for average swing speed players. Now you guys absolutely loved that video, but you kept telling me in the comments that I'd got the wrong balls in the shortlist and I should have included different balls instead. Now the ball that kept coming up time and time again were these, the Bridgestone Tour B RX and RXS golf balls. Now seeing as this is a YouTube channel made by an amateur golfer, for all of you amateur golfers watching down the lens, what else could I do but get my hands on a sleeve of both of these golf balls, book myself back into the studio and go and repeat the test, putting these two golf balls side by side against the Pro V1, which I think proved itself in that previous test as to why it is the #1 ball in golf. Now, in case you haven't ever played a Bridgestone ball before, just like myself, we'll start this video by telling you a little bit about both of these golf balls, then we'll head on down to the studio and we'll repeat that test and hopefully prove all of you watching down the lens that told me to include these golf balls that you were right and that I was wrong. So let's get started. Okay, so just before we head down to the studio, I just want to give you a bit of background information on both of these golf balls. Now, first thing to note is that Bridgestone actually make 4 premium golf balls. The other 2 that we're not testing today are designed for driver swing speeds above 105 mile an hour, so very fast club head speed players. And these 2 golf balls are designed for the rest of us golfers with a driver swing speed under 105 mile an hour. Now, these 2 golf balls differentiate themselves on the characteristics they claim to deliver. First of all, we've got the green one, the Tour B RXS, that offers a bit more greenside spin and is also a slightly softer golf ball. So if you like a soft feeling golf ball, this is supposed to be the softest premium golf ball that Bridgestone make. If you're looking for a bit of help with extra distance, particularly in the long game, you might then choose the Tour B RX, or the red one as we're going to call it during this video, as because that is designed to offer a few more extra yards off of the tee. Now, how do both of these golf balls compare to the Titleist Pro V1 that we'll be benchmarking against today? Well, as you can see from the data on screen, both of these balls are cheaper, retailing at $39.99 in the UK, which is about a saving of £8 versus the Pro V1. Both of these golf balls are a 3-piece urethane covered golf ball, and both of them are softer than the Pro V1, with the green one being the softest of the 2. In terms of short game spin, all 3 golf balls claim to offer high short game spin, but I am expecting the green one to outperform the red one in those initial parts of the test. And then as we move up to the long game, I'm expecting to see the red one come into its own, offer a little bit more driver distance and a little bit less spin. However, I am expecting both of these balls to potentially spin less than the Pro V1 with the driver, just based on the claims that Bridgestone are making versus the claims that Titleist make. So what we'll make sure we do as we go through the test is we'll look at the data, see if those claims are validated, and hopefully it'll give us the conclusions on whether or not these golf balls should have been on my shortlist originally. Let's get down to the studio. Okay, so done hitting those pitch shots with the 60-degree wedge there, and initial feelings on hitting the balls is the Tour RXS, which is the softer ball, definitely did feel a little bit softer. I could definitely feel that off of the face. The Tour RBX definitely sounded a little bit clippier, but then when I hit the batch of shots with the Pro V1 as a baseline, that definitely sounded clippier again, so slightly firmer, clippier sound. So let's take a look at the real data now and see if those feels I was having are backed up in the numbers. So let's take a look at the data from the 60-degree wedge with that 30 to 40 yard pitch shot. Now, the first claim we wanted to put to the test is the Tour B RXS, the green one, is it delivering the most spin on those 30 to 40 yard pitch shots and all those other greenside shots. And we can see from the batch of data here that yes, it did, but only marginally, and I must admit it was the least consistent of the three balls in this test, again, but only marginally. Now I think what that proves is with a short shot where you're having kind of a half to three-quarter swing, the overriding variable in that is me as a handicapped golfer. I play off 13, I'm not going to deliver exactly the same carry distance or exactly the same launch conditions time after time. So for me to see that both of the Bridgestone balls competed with the Pro V1 did give me a load of confidence. We can see that backed up with the launch angles and the land angles and the peak heights at this sort of shot being virtually identical, meaning we're going to see a really similar ball flight with either of the Bridgestones as we could see with the Titleist. Now let's move on to hitting some pitching wedges. Okay, if we just take a look at the pitching wedge data here, what you can see first of all on the left-hand side is that the club head speed and the ball speed with all three of these balls was virtually identical considering the number of shots I hit with all of them. There's less than a mile an hour in the club head speed and less than 1.5 mile an hour in the ball speeds. After that, we can see that the Tour B RX in the middle actually delivered the most amount of spin with a pitching wedge at 7,009 revs. Second behind that was the Titleist Pro V1 at 6,709. But what you can see is that the consistency of the Titleist Pro V1 does look a lot worse, and that's because I had one shot which did have a really weird spin reading. However, the rest of the numbers from that shot did look right, so I still wanted to include it in the batch of shots. So I would take that consistency number with a little bit of a pinch of salt here. The Titleist Pro V1 is a really consistent golf ball, as we've seen in any other test. The lowest spinning ball in the pitching wedge was the Tour B RXS, which came in at 6,168. So this is supposed to be the ball that offers the most short game spin. So as soon as we start getting up to full wedges, that actually does go away based on the data that I've been able to see here. What we can then see is that when we move across to the other data on the right hand side, the balls work their way up from bottom of the data set to the top. So first of all, in the carry number, the Pro V1 was the shortest, then the Tour B RX, and then the Tour B RXS, albeit there's not a lot in it between the two Bridgestone balls. In terms of launch angle, the Pro V1 was the lowest launching, then the Tour B RX, and then the Tour B RXS, but again, not a lot in it. We then saw slightly more land angle as we moved from bottom to top, and we saw slightly more peak height from bottom to top as well, with the Tour B RXS delivering 7 feet, almost 10% more of peak height versus the Pro V1. So what this says to me is that the Tour B RXS is delivering control with a pitching wedge through higher launch, higher peak heights and steeper land angles into the green, but to the detriment of spin. And the Tour B RX, or the red one, was delivering a little bit more spin, but a little bit less of those launch angles, heights and land angles. And as a result, that was demonstrating control through the use of spin. The Pro V1 is absolutely in the middle, like you would expect it to be. It's got a really good amount of spin to deliver control, plus that low launch that tour and premium players like to see of a kind of wedge coming in lower and stopping quicker. Let's move on to the 7-iron. Okay, so let's have a look at that 7-iron data, and what we can see here is that some of the patterns that we saw with the pitching wedge are repeated and a couple of them are a little bit different. Starting on the left hand side with that club speed, we can see that it was almost identical with all three balls in the 78 point whatever mile an hour range. The ball speeds with all three of these balls was absolutely identical at 111.5, despite the fact that I've hit a batch of shots with each of them, which is really mind-blowingly impressive. The spin rates work their way from top of the list to bottom of the list in terms of least spinning to most spinning. So that Tour B RXS span at 3,744, then the Tour B RX at 4,035, and then finally the Pro V1 was the highest spinning in this part of the test at 4,137. That Tour B RXS is a little bit low spin, but one thing we do need to know is that all of these balls, if we took them out and hit them off the grass, you would see somewhere in the region of an extra 1,000 revs of spin, and that's because you normally find that off the mat you are slightly lower spinning. When we then go to the carry distance, the launch angle, the land angle and the peak heights, we can see that this is where it flips itself round and is very, very similar to what we saw with the pitching wedge, where from bottom to top we can see that the performance increases slightly. The carry number is highest with the Tour B RXS, so is the launch angle, so is the land angle, and so is the peak heights. However, those launch angles, land angles and peak heights are very, very similar with all three of the balls, showing they had a really, really similar ball flight through the air. Now for me personally, based on these 7-iron numbers, I'd probably be picking the Tour B RX, purely on the basis it had that little bit more spin than the S version, and it still had really comparable launch angles, land angles and peak heights. Now let's get onto that driver. That felt good. Okay, so let's just finish by looking at those driver numbers. Now, a couple of things to note before we get right into the detail here is that the two Bridgestone balls, my club head speed with both of them was absolutely identical at 93.4 mile an hour. With the Pro V1, it was 1.5 mile an hour slow. Now, that's just one of those oddities of a human being involved in the test, because I was mixing the two balls up and I did feel like I was giving them all equal amount of power behind my swings. So just something to note when we look at the rest of the numbers across to the right-hand side. Now the claims that we're trying to see from Bridgestone here is, did that distance ball, the red Tour B RX, did it deliver extra distance with the driver? Did it deliver that high launch, low spin? And we can see from these data sets it absolutely did. First of all, you can see that spin rate of 2383 was the lowest spinning with the driver out of all three of the balls, about 300 revs less than the Titleist Pro V1 and about 650 revs less than the Tour B RXS. Interestingly, it also had the tightest spin numbers as well, that consistency rating of only 227 revs of difference from the most spinning to the least spinning ball. If we then jump across a few parameters to the right and have a look at that launch angle, we can see at 12.5 it was the highest launching of the balls off the driver, about half a degree more than the Pro V1 and a full degree more than the Tour B RXS. So the question is, with those extra benefits, did it in turn make more carry distance? And absolutely yes it did. We can see that the carry distance with the Tour B RX was 210.5 yards, a full 4 yards more than the Tour B RXS, and a further 3 yards more than the Titleist Pro V1, so a total difference of about 7 yards over that Pro V1. Again, we do need to note that slight decrease in club head speed with the Pro V1 that probably equated for a couple of yards there. Now, I don't normally like to talk about total distance with TrackMan because I think the rollout that you see on a TrackMan is always a little bit comical. It almost looks like the fairways are lined up as US Open greens, and the numbers that I ever see of total distance or rollout on a TrackMan are never the reality of what I see out on the grass. But I do think with a driver, and when you're looking at three data sets side by side, I think you can show a comparison here. The total with the Tour B RX was 238.1 yards, a full 9 yards more than the Tour B RXS and 8 yards more than the Pro V1. So what we can say for certain is that the claims that Bridgestone make about the distance ball offering that extra distance and being really, really helpful with the long game, we can see that they've been delivered on just here. Great job, Bridgestone. Right, let's get into my concluding thoughts. So we're coming towards the end of the video now, and I just want to give you my conclusions on both of these golf balls. Now, first things first, Bridgestone have done an absolutely brilliant job with both of these golf balls. I love both of them. They deliver on the marketing claims, they differentiate themselves, they perform fantastically well against the Pro V1, and my only regret is that I've not gamed or at least tested a Bridgestone golf ball before. So if you're one of those people who told me in the comments of my other video that actually the Bridgestone golf ball was the best premium soft golf ball, I must admit, you might be right. These balls are absolutely fantastic. Now, the only question that remains for me is which one of these would I game? And the honest answer is I'm still undecided. I absolutely loved the feel and the performance of the Tour B RXS, particularly in that short game. It just feels absolutely fantastic. But I did love the long game performance of the Tour B RX, and for someone who's always looking to add a couple of extra yards off the tee, it's really hard to turn down the performance and the gains that we got off the Tour B RX, particularly as I don't think I hit that batch of shots as well as I did maybe some of the other batches of shots. So I think there's a little bit more in the tank. What I think I'm going to do is I currently game a TaylorMade Tour Response, which I absolutely love. I have done a previous review of that on the channel. If you've not yet seen it, I'll put a link to it up there for you. I think I'm going to go back to the studio, put my TaylorMade Tour Response side by side against both of these golf balls, and from there I'll decide what golf ball I'm going to game for the rest of 2023 and hopefully beyond. Now, all that remains for me to say is if you like the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. It really does help other like-minded golfers to find my content. Also, as this channel is made by an amateur golfer for other amateur golfers, I want to make content that you guys want to see. So please feel free to tell me down in the comments below any other golf ball reviews or any other reviews that you'd like to see on the channel. Don't worry if you're one of the people that requested the Wilson golf ball or the Kirkland golf ball, those reviews are coming soon on the channel too, so please stay tuned. Finally, if you're not yet subscribing, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I recently passed 1,000 on the channel, and I'm really grateful for all of you that have supported me from the start of this journey, and I'm really looking forward to growing the channel over the next months and years with the help of all of you guys and all of your suggestions for what content we should make. There's loads more free golf content coming soon, so go on, if you're not subscribed, hit that button. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Keep on that quest to become a weekend tour pro. Goodbye.